On Christmas Eve, a billionaire sat alone on a frozen bench, crying. He had everything money could buy, and absolutely nothing that mattered.
Don't worry,
Then a 6-year-old
sweetheart.
girl in a coat
Mommy
2
is
sizes too
strong.
big walked
Everything
up
is
to
going
him
to be all
and
right.
whispered 5 words that shattered his world.
Ava,
"You can borrow
no,
my mom."
please don't take her.
What
Mommy,
happened next will
let me
break your
go.
heart and put it back together
I want
again.
my mommy.
This is a story about a mother who
This
lost
folder contains
everything
the
to a corrupt
irrefutable proof
system,
of your corruption,
a
Mr.
child
Morgan.
who believed in
The
miracles,
authorities are here to see
and a
you
broken
now.
man who discovered that sometimes the people with the least to give offer the most. It's proof that one small act of kindness can start a revolution, that family isn't always blood, and that the darkest Christmas Eve can lead to the brightest Christmas morning. If you've ever felt alone, overlooked, or like the world was against you, this story is for you. Stay until the end. Trust me, you'll need tissues. And if this story touches your heart, hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who needs hope tonight. Let's begin. Cold that comes from winter air, but the kind that seeps into your bones when hope dies. Lily Morgan stood before Judge Eleanor Hartwell on Christmas Eve, her hands trembling so violently she had to grip the wooden railing to stay upright. Across the aisle, her ex-husband Derek sat with his fiancée Jessica, both of them wearing matching expressions of triumph. The judge's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Based on the emergency CPS report and the concerns raised about Ms. Morgan's judgment, this court has no choice but to temporarily transfer custody of Ava Morgan to her father, Derek Morgan, effective immediately. The words didn't register at first. Lily's mind refused to accept them. Then she heard it, the sound that would haunt her nightmares for years to come. "Mommy, no, Mommy!" Ava, her 6-year-old daughter, being pulled away by court officers while Derek's lawyer blocked Lily's path. "No," Lily screamed, lunging forward. "Please, she's my daughter. She's all I have." But hands held her back. Rules, procedures, a system that was supposed to protect children but had been corrupted by money and lies. Derek walked past her, Ava crying in a social worker's arms. He leaned close and whispered, "Should have given up when you had the chance, Lily. Now Ava gets to spend Christmas with her real family." Lily collapsed to her knees on the cold courtroom floor, watching her daughter disappear through the doors. 3 days ago, she thought she had nothing left to lose. She was wrong. They took everything. But what they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that a stranger had already set in motion a plan that would bring them all to their knees. This is how it happened. 4 days earlier, December 20th, snow fell softly over Boston, blanketing the city in white. Christmas lights twinkled from every storefront, and carolers sang on street corners. For most people, it was a night of joy and anticipation. For Ethan Calloway, it was just another reminder of everything he had lost. He sat alone on a wooden bench outside Boston Children's Hospital, the same bench where he'd sat every Christmas Eve for the past 5 years. His expensive cashmere coat did nothing to ward off the cold that lived inside him, a cold that had nothing to do with the weather. 42 years old, billionaire CEO of Callaway Industries, a man who could buy almost anything in the world, except the one thing he wanted most. His phone buzzed in his pocket, 47 missed calls from his assistant, a $2 billion merger waiting for his approval, board members demanding his attention. He didn't care. Clara's voice echoed in his memory, as clear as the day she'd spoken the words 5 years ago. Her hand weak in his, her eyes still full of love, even as the cancer stole her away. "Promise me, Ethan. Promise me you won't become one of those cold, empty men. Promise me you'll find joy again." "I'm trying, Clara," he whispered into the frozen air. "I'm trying, but I don't know how." A single tear escaped down his cheek. He didn't bother wiping it away. There was no one here to see, no one to care. That's when he heard the footsteps, tiny footsteps, crunching through the snow. He looked up to find a little girl standing beside him. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Her pink coat was at least 2 sizes too big, the sleeves hanging past her fingertips. Her red mittens had holes in them. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold. But her eyes held a warmth that Ethan hadn't seen in years. She studied him with an intensity that seemed far too wise for her age. "Why are you crying, mister?" Ethan quickly wiped his face. "I'm not crying." "Yes, you are," she said matter-of-factly. "Your heart is leaking through your eyes." Despite everything, Ethan felt the corner of his mouth twitch. That's, that's a very interesting way to put it. My mommy says that, the girl explained. She says tears are just feelings that got too big to stay inside. Your mommy sounds like a wise woman. She's the best. The girl sat down on the bench beside him, uninvited but somehow not unwelcome. She works in there. She pointed at the hospital. She helps sick kids feel better. She's always tired, but she never ever complains. That's very noble of her. What's noble mean? It means she's a good person. The girl nodded seriously. She is the goodest person in the whole world. They sat in silence for a moment. The snow continued to fall, catching in the girl's dark hair like tiny stars. Are you alone? She asked suddenly. The question hit Ethan harder than he expected. Yes. That's sad. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. She swung her legs, her feet not quite reaching the ground. My mommy says when someone is sad, you should share your happy with them. Your mommy says a lot of things. She's really smart. The girl paused, then turned to face him with a determined expression. You know what? You can borrow her. Ethan blinked. I'm sorry. My mom, she gives really good hugs, like the best hugs ever. She can share with you tonight, because you look like you really need a mom hug. Something cracked inside Ethan's chest. This child, in her too big coat and her holy mittens, had nothing. And yet here she was, offering to share the most precious thing in her world with a complete stranger. What's your name? He asked, his voice rougher than he intended. Ava, she smiled proudly. Ava Morgan. What's yours? Ethan. That's a nice name. My daddy's name is Derek, but mommy doesn't like saying it. She gets sad eyes when she does. Before Ethan could respond, Ava continued. Do you have a daddy? I did. He passed away a long time ago. Aviva's face fell. Oh, I'm sorry. Then she brightened slightly. My goldfish passed away too. His name was Mr. Bubbles. I cried for 3 whole days. Ethan couldn't help it. He laughed. A real laugh, the first one in longer than he could remember. Ava grinned triumphantly. See, laughing is better than crying. My mom taught me that too. Your mom taught you well. I know. Ava studied him again. So can I take you to meet her? She's inside. She can help you feel better. That's her job, helping people. Before Ethan could answer, the hospital doors burst open. A nurse in scrubs came running out, her face panicked. Ava, there you are. Your mother, she collapsed. Every trace of warmth drained from Ava's face. Mommy, Mommy. She grabbed Ethan's hand with surprising strength, her tiny fingers digging into his palm. Please, mister, please come with me. I'm scared. And without a second thought, without questioning why or what he was doing, Ethan Calloway, billionaire CEO, lifted the little girl into his arms and ran into the hospital. The emergency room was controlled chaos. Nurses rushed past with clipboards and IV bags. Monitors beeped in a discordant symphony. The harsh fluorescent lights made everyone look pale and sick. But nothing looked as pale as the woman lying unconscious on the hospital bed. Lily Morgan was beautiful, even like this, even with dark circles under her eyes and an IV drip in her arm. She had the same dark hair as her daughter, the same gentle curve to her face. But where Ava radiated warmth, Lily looked like a candle that had been burning too long, its flame nearly extinguished. Ava struggled in Ethan's arms, reaching for her mother. Mommy, wake up. Please wake up. A doctor approached, his expression grave. Are you family? Ethan looked at Ava's terrified face, at Lily's fragile form, at the monitors tracking her heartbeat. Yes, he heard himself say. I am. The doctor nodded. She's stable, but it was close. Severe exhaustion, dehydration, anemia. Her body essentially shut down from overwork. The nurses tell me she's been pulling double shifts for weeks. Is she gonna die? Ava's voice was barely a whisper. Like Mr. Bubbles? The doctor knelt down to Ava's level. No, sweetheart, your mommy is going to be okay. She just needs rest. Promise? I promise. Ethan set Ava down, and she immediately rushed to her mother's bedside, climbing onto the chair beside it so she could hold Lily's hand. Mommy, I'm here. I'm right here. Mr. Ethan brought me. He's nice. He was crying outside, but I think he's okay now. Ethan stood back, watching the scene unfold. He should leave. This wasn't his place. These weren't his people. He was a stranger who had stumbled into someone else's story, but he couldn't make his feet move toward the door. A hospital administrator approached him, clipboard in hand. Sir, I need to ask some questions for our records. You said your family? Yes. And your relationship to the patient? Ethan looked at Ava, still clutching her mother's hand, whispering words of comfort. He looked at Lily, this woman who had worked herself to the point of collapse to care for her child. I'm a close friend of the family. The administrator made a note. And you'll be staying with them? Yes, for as long as they need. An hour passed, then two. Ava fell asleep in the chair, her head resting on the bed beside her mother's arm. Ethan sat in the corner answering emails on his phone out of habit, but his eyes kept drifting back to the woman in the bed. What kind of person worked themselves into unconsciousness? What kind of desperation drove someone to sacrifice their own health? And why did something about her feel so familiar? Around midnight, Lily stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as she took in her surroundings. The hospital room, the monitors, her daughter asleep beside her, and a stranger sitting in the corner. Lily's reaction was immediate and fierce. She tried to sit up, wincing at the pain, her eyes blazing with protective fury. Who are you? Get away from my daughter! Ava awoke at her mother's voice, groggy but smiling. Mommy, you're awake. Ava, baby, come here. Come to Mommy. But Mommy, this is Mr. Ethan. He's nice. I found him outside. He was crying and I told him he could borrow you. Lily's confusion was evident. Borrow me? Ava, what are you talking about? He was sad and alone, Mommy, like really, really sad. So I said he could borrow you because you give the best hugs. And then the nurse came and said you were sick. And he carried me inside and he stayed with us all night. And he didn't leave even when I fell asleep. Lily looked at Ethan, really looked at him, for the first time. The expensive coat, the tailored clothes underneath, the watch that probably cost more than she made in a year, but also the exhaustion in his eyes, the grief that lingered there. I'm sorry, Lily said slowly. I don't understand what's happening. Ethan stood and approached the bed carefully, keeping a respectful distance. Your daughter found me outside. She was remarkably kind to me at a moment when I needed it. When you collapsed, she asked me to help. I wasn't about to leave a scared child alone in a hospital. You stayed all night. You needed rest. Ava needed to feel safe. It was the least I could do. Lily studied him and something shifted in her expression. Recognition, not of his face, but of something deeper. Who did you lose? The question caught Ethan off guard. What? I'm a nurse. I've seen grief 1,000 times. You have it in your eyes, that particular kind of loss that never fully heals. A long pause, then quietly. My wife, Clara, cancer, 5 years ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. She lived beautifully. She just didn't live long enough. They shared a moment of understanding, two broken people recognizing the shape of each other's pain. Then Lily's phone buzzed on the bedside table. She reached for it, and Ethan watched her face transform. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands began to shake. Oh, God, she whispered. Oh, God, no. Mommy, what's wrong? Lily didn't answer. She just stared at the screen, tears beginning to stream down her face. Ethan moved closer, his voice gentle. What is it? What happened? Lily looked up at him, her expression shattered. My ex-husband, there's a custody hearing in 4 days. He's going to take Ava. He's going to take my baby away from me. She broke down completely then. Great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Ava began crying too, not understanding what was wrong, but feeling her mother's pain. Ethan stood there, frozen, watching this woman fall apart. Everything in him screamed to walk away. This wasn't his problem. This wasn't his life. But then Ava looked up at him, tears streaming down her face, and said, Please, Mr. Ethan, please help my mommy. You're supposed to help sad people. That's what borrowing is for. And in that moment, Ethan Calloway made a decision that would change all of their lives forever. He sat down on the edge of Lily's bed and took her hand. Tell me everything. The story came out in fragments, pieces of a nightmare that Lily had been living for 2 years. She had met Derek Morgan when she was 24 years old. A young nurse, fresh out of school, full of hope and idealism. He was a charming surgeon, 12 years her senior, with a smile that made her feel like the only woman in the world. They married quickly. Too quickly, she realized now. But she had been so in love, so certain that she had found her happily ever after. Ava came along 2 years later, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. Lily cut back her hours at work to support Derek's career. She handled the household, the cooking, the cleaning. She made sure his life ran smoothly so he could focus on becoming the best surgeon in Boston. She didn't notice the late nights growing later, the business trips becoming more frequent, the way he looked at his phone and smiled at messages he never showed her. She found out about Jessica Wells by accident. Ava was 4 years old when Lily came home early from a shortened shift and found her husband in their bed with another woman. A younger woman, beautiful, confident, wearing the necklace Lily had thought Derek bought for his mother's birthday. The divorce was brutal. Derek had money, connections, a lawyer named Gregory Ashford who seemed to anticipate every move Lily made before she made it. Lily had a public defender who barely remembered her name. And then there was Judge Harold Patterson. He's Derek's golf buddy, Lily said bitterly. They've known each other for years. Every ruling went in Derek's favor. The house, the savings, the retirement accounts. Derek claimed he was in debt, and the judge believed him. I got nothing. And custody? Ethan asked. Shared. But Derek got more days because his house is bigger, his neighborhood is better, his income is higher. Lily laughed, but there was no humor in it. He barely spent time with Ava during our marriage. He missed her first steps, her first words. But suddenly, in the divorce, he was father of the year. What does he really want? Lily looked at him, her eyes hard. He wants to win. That's all Derek has ever cared about. Winning. And I embarrassed him by filing for divorce. No one leaves Derek Morgan. He wanted me to stay, to look the other way while he had his affairs. When I refused, he decided to destroy me. And Jessica? She's pregnant now. Did I mention that? Derek's fiancée is pregnant. They want to be a real family, and Ava is an inconvenience, a reminder of his first failed marriage. Lily's voice cracked. But Derek won't give up custody because that would mean admitting he lost something. So instead, he's trying to take full custody. If he wins, I get supervised visitation. 2 hours a week, my own daughter, and I'd have to ask permission to see her. Ava had fallen back asleep, exhausted from the emotional turmoil. Ethan looked at the little girl, this child who had offered him kindness when she had nothing, and felt something ignite in his chest. Anger. Pure, focused, righteous anger. The hearing is in 4 days? Christmas Eve, Lily confirmed. Derek's lawyer pushed for an emergency modification. They're claiming I'm an unfit mother because I work too much, because I can't afford a bigger apartment, because I collapsed at work tonight. Her laugh was bitter. I collapsed because I've been working double shifts to afford the lawyer fees. And now they'll use that against me too. Do you have representation? I have a legal aid attorney who's handling about 50 other cases. She does her best, but she's overworked and underfunded. Against Gregory Ashford, she doesn't stand a chance. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. What are you doing? Lily asked. Something I should have done the moment your daughter showed me that kindness isn't dead in this world. He dialed a number and waited. It was 2 a.m, but the phone was answered on the 3rd ring. Marcus, it's Ethan. I need you to wake up Victoria Caldwell. Yes, I know what time it is. Tell her it's for me. Tell her I'm calling in the favor. She'll know what that means. He hung up and looked at Lily. Who's Victoria Caldwell? The best family law attorney in Massachusetts. Some people call her the Shark. She's never lost a custody case. Ethan paused. She owes me a favor, a big one, and I've been waiting 5 years to use it. Why, Bo? Lily's voice was barely a whisper. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why would you do this? Ethan looked at Ava, still sleeping peacefully despite everything. Because your daughter walked up to a complete stranger and offered him the only thing she had to give, her mother's love. She didn't ask what I could do for her. She didn't want anything in return. She just saw someone hurting and tried to help. He turned back to Lily. That kind of compassion doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from you, from the way you've raised her, from the example you've set. He took a breath. People like you deserve to win, and people like Derek Morgan deserve to lose. I'm going to make sure that happens. Lily stared at him, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you have your daughter and your life back. December 22nd, 2 days before Christmas Eve. Victoria Caldwell arrived at the hospital at 7 in the morning, impeccably dressed in a navy suit, her silver hair pulled back in a precise bun. She was 55 years old, sharp-featured, and had the kind of eyes that seemed to see through walls. Behind her came Marcus Webb, Ethan's head of security, former FBI, built like a linebacker but moved like a ghost. And Dr. Helen Barnes, a child psychologist who had testified in hundreds of custody cases and had zero tolerance for manipulation. Victoria sat down across from Lily's hospital bed and opened a leather folder. I've reviewed your case files, she said without preamble. This is the most blatantly corrupt custody ruling I've ever seen. Judge Patterson didn't even try to hide the bias. He should have recused himself the moment he realized he had a personal relationship with one of the parties. Can we do anything about that? We can do everything about that. Victoria smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who had spotted prey. Here's what we know so far. Marcus pulled out a tablet. Derek Morgan has offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. $3 million that he claimed didn't exist during the divorce proceedings. Lily's jaw dropped. He said he was in debt. He said that's why he couldn't pay child support. He lied, and he committed perjury doing it. Marcus swiped to the next screen. Judge Patterson received $150,000 in consulting fees from a company that doesn't appear to exist. The payment started 2 months before your divorce proceedings and ended 2 weeks after the final ruling. Bribery, Victoria said flatly. Judicial corruption, federal crimes. Lily looked between them, overwhelmed. How did you find all this in one night? Marcus glanced at Ethan. Mr. Calloway has resources. I made some calls. When you know where to look, patterns emerge. Victoria took over. Here's the plan. We file an emergency motion this afternoon presenting evidence of Derek's hidden assets. Judge Patterson will be forced to recuse himself due to the appearance of impropriety. A new judge will be assigned, one who isn't on your ex-husband's payroll, and then we bury Derek Morgan under so much evidence of fraud and corruption that he'll be lucky to see his daughter at all. Can you really do that? Victoria's smile sharpened. Ms. Morgan, I've destroyed men far more powerful than Derek Morgan. Men who thought their money and connections made them untouchable. By the time I'm done with your ex-husband, he'll be begging for whatever scraps of dignity I allow him to keep. For the first time in 2 years, Lily felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. December 23rd, 1 day before Christmas Eve. The courthouse was packed with holiday travelers trying to get legal matters settled before the break. Clerks rushed between offices with stacks of papers. Lawyers conferred in hurried whispers. In courtroom 7, Victoria Caldwell stood before Judge Harold Patterson and presented evidence that would destroy his career. Your Honor, she said, her voice calm and precise. I have documentation proving that the defendant, Derek Morgan, concealed $3 million in offshore accounts during the original divorce proceedings. This constitutes perjury and fraud upon the court. Derek's face went pale. His lawyer, Gregory Ashford, leaped to his feet. Objection, Your Honor. This evidence was obtained without proper discovery procedures. The evidence was obtained through public financial records and standard investigative techniques, Victoria countered. Nothing we've done violates any procedural rules. Perhaps Mr. Ashford is more concerned about the content of the evidence than its source. Judge Patterson's face had turned an interesting shade of red. Ms. Caldwell, these are serious accusations. They are, and there's more. Victoria pulled another document from her folder. I also have financial records showing payments made to a consulting firm that appears to exist only on paper. Payments that coincide precisely with the timeline of Ms. Morgan's divorce proceedings, payments that total $150,000. The courtroom went silent. Judge Patterson's red face turned white. Your Honor, Victoria continued, given the nature of these revelations, I believe it would be appropriate for this court to recuse itself from further proceedings in the Morgan custody case, to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Gregory Ashford tried to object again, but even he could see the writing on the wall. Judge Patterson was trapped. If he refused to recuse himself, Victoria would escalate. She would go to the Judicial Review Board, to the FBI, to the press. Very well, Patterson said through gritted teeth. This court recuses itself from the Morgan custody matter. The case will be reassigned to Judge Eleanor Hartwell. Victory surged through Lily's chest. She gripped Ethan's hand without thinking, and he squeezed back. Outside the courthouse, Ava threw her arms around her mother's legs. Did we win, Mommy? Did we win? We won this round, baby. Victoria approached them, already checking her phone. Don't celebrate too much. This was the easy part, easy. Derek still has resources, and he's not going to give up without a fight. Judge Hartwell is fair, but fair means she'll listen to both sides. We need to be ready for whatever Derek throws at us next. What can he throw? Lily asked. You exposed his fraud. His hidden assets, yes, but Derek Morgan is a narcissist. When narcissists feel cornered, they don't retreat. They attack, they escalate. They do whatever it takes to win, no matter who gets hurt. Victoria looked at Lily seriously. Be careful, stay alert, and call me immediately if anything unusual happens. Lily nodded, but she couldn't quite suppress the smile on her face. For the first time in 2 years, she had won something. For the first time, she had people in her corner. She looked at Ethan, the stranger who had become her champion overnight. Thank you, she said, for everything. Don't thank me yet, he replied, but he was smiling too. Thank me when it's over. That evening, Lily picked up Ava from Derek's house. It was his scheduled visitation day, and the court order was still in effect until Judge Hartwell ruled otherwise. Derek answered the door. He was smiling. That particular smile Lily had learned to fear during their marriage. The smile that said he knew something she didn't. The smile that preceded cruelty. Enjoy your little legal tricks, Lily. I don't know what you're talking about. Getting Patterson recused. Bringing in that shark lawyer. I heard Ethan Calloway is bankrolling your case now. Derek's smile widened. Sleeping with billionaires. That's a new low, even for you. I'm not sleeping with anyone. He's a friend. Right, a friend who just happened to appear out of nowhere and start throwing money at your problems. Derek leaned against the doorframe. You think replacing the judge matters? You think any of this changes anything? It changes the fact that you can't buy your way to victory anymore. I never lose, Lily. You should know that by now. He handed her an envelope, plain white, no return address. What's this? Your wake-up call. Lily opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a document marked Child Protective Services Emergency Report. Allegation. Lily Morgan left her minor child unsupervised in a public location while she was hospitalized. Child was discovered with an unknown adult male. Investigation required. The ground fell away beneath her feet. This is a lie, she whispered. Ava wasn't unsupervised. Ethan was helping us. He stayed with her the whole time. Ethan, Derek's voice dripped contempt. A man you'd never met before. A complete stranger who held our daughter for hours while you were unconscious. What kind of mother lets that happen? I was unconscious. I didn't let anything happen. That's not what the report says. Derek's smile turned cruel. Jessica's mother filed the complaint. Miranda Wells, former social worker. Very credible. Very concerned about Ava's welfare and your care. Jessica's mother filed this? Your girlfriend's mother? Fiancé, and Miranda's just doing her civic duty, protecting a child from potential harm. Derek straightened, adjusting his expensive watch. See you in court, Lily. Tomorrow's going to be very interesting. He closed the door in her face. Lily stood on the porch, the CPS report shaking in her hands, while Ava looked up at her with wishity, worried eyes. Mommy? What's wrong? Everything. Everything was wrong. The first victory had already turned to ash. The CPS worker arrived at Lily's apartment the next morning at 9 sharp. Her name was Patricia Lawson, 50-ish, gray-streaked hair pulled into a severe bun, glasses that made her eyes look too large for her face. She carried a clipboard and wore an expression of professional neutrality that somehow felt more threatening than open hostility. Ms. Morgan, thank you for meeting with me on such short notice. I didn't have much choice. Patricia stepped inside and immediately began taking notes. The cramped living room, the secondhand furniture, the lack of Christmas decorations. I notice you haven't decorated for the holidays. I've been working double shifts. I haven't had time. Working double shifts while caring for a young child. Patricia made another note. That must be challenging. I do what I have to do to provide for my daughter. Of course, Patricia moved to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator. Lily's heart sank. She'd been meaning to go grocery shopping. The fridge was nearly empty except for some milk, eggs, and leftover takeout. Another note. I was hospitalized 2 days ago. I haven't had a chance to shop. Yes, the hospitalization. That's actually what I wanted to discuss. Patricia turned to face her. The report indicates that during your hospitalization, your daughter was left in the care of a man named Ethan Calloway, a man you had never met before. He wasn't caring for her. He was helping. My daughter approached him outside the hospital while I was working. When I collapsed, he brought her inside. He stayed with us until I woke up. He was being kind. A stranger, alone with your daughter for several hours. I was unconscious. I didn't choose that. But you did choose to work double shifts that led to your collapse. You chose to bring your daughter to work with you rather than arranging proper childcare. You chose to prioritize income over your own health, which ultimately endangered your child. Lily felt her throat tightening. I worked double shifts because my ex-husband hid $3 million during our divorce and left me with nothing. I bring Ava to work because I can't afford childcare. I collapsed because I've been fighting a custody battle against a man with unlimited resources while trying to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. Ms. Morgan, I'm not here to debate the fairness of your divorce settlement. No, you're here because my ex-husband's girlfriend's mother filed a complaint designed to take my daughter away. Miranda Wells. Does that name appear anywhere in your report? Patricia's expression flickered, just for a moment. The identity of the complainant is confidential. But you know who filed it, and you know that person has a direct interest in seeing me lose custody. What I know is that there are concerns about your ability to provide adequate supervision for your child. Those concerns must be investigated regardless of who raised them. Ava emerged from her bedroom clutching a stuffed rabbit. She had been listening. Mommy didn't do anything wrong, she said, her small voice fierce. Mr. Ethan was nice. He stayed with me when I was scared. He didn't hurt me. He helped. Patricia knelt down to Ava's level, her voice softening slightly. Hello, sweetheart. I'm Ms. Lawson. I just want to ask you a few questions, okay? Okay. When you met Mr. Ethan, how did you feel? Ava considered this seriously. I felt like he needed help. He was crying and nobody was there for him. So I went to talk to him because Mommy says we should help sad people. And when your mommy got sick, what happened? Mr. Ethan carried me inside. He held my hand. He told me Mommy was going to be okay. Ava's eyes filled with tears. He didn't leave, even when it got really late. He stayed because he knew I was scared. Did he do anything that made you uncomfortable? No. Ava's voice was firm. He was nice. He was like a really good helper, like someone who really cared about us even though he didn't know us. Patricia studied the little girl for a long moment. Then she stood. I'll need to conduct a full investigation. This includes interviews with witnesses, background checks on Mr. Calloway, and a home assessment. In the meantime, I'm recommending supervised visitation only. What? Lily's voice cracked. No, you can't do this. It's a precautionary measure, Ms. Morgan. Until we can verify that your home environment is safe and that the incident at the hospital was truly innocent, Ava will remain in her father's primary care. Her father, the man who bribed a judge? The man who's been trying to destroy me for 2 years? The allegations against Mr. Morgan are under separate investigation. My concern is the immediate welfare of the child. Patricia headed for the door. You'll receive formal notification of the supervised visitation schedule this afternoon. I'm sorry, Ms. Morgan. This is standard procedure. The door closed behind her. Lily stood frozen in the center of her apartment, watching her daughter's face crumble. Mommy, does this mean I have to go back to Daddy's house? I, I don't know, baby. But I don't want to. I want to stay with you. Lily knelt down and pulled Ava into her arms. I know, sweetheart. I know. Mommy's going to fix this. I promise. But even as she said the words, she wasn't sure she believed them. Everything was falling apart. That evening, Lily sat in Ethan's penthouse apartment, surrounded by legal documents and takeout containers. Ava had been taken to Derek's house per the CPS recommendation. The apartment felt emptier than it ever had. Victoria Caldwell paced by the window, phone pressed to her ear, firing instructions to her team. Marcus Webb sat at the dining table, laptop open, digging through financial records. And Ethan sat beside Lily, close but not touching, his presence somehow steadying. They're using me against you, Lily said quietly. Everything I did to survive, they're using it as evidence that I'm unfit. That's what people like Derek do, Ethan replied. They take your strengths and twist them into weaknesses. They make your sacrifices look like failures. Maybe they're right. Maybe Ava would be better off with him. He has money, a big house, a stable life. Stop. Ethan's voice was sharp. Don't do that. Do what? Give up. I've seen that look before. I wore it for 5 years after Clara died. It's the look of someone who's decided they don't deserve to win. Lily looked at him, really looked at him. How did you stop feeling that way? I haven't, not entirely. Ethan was quiet for a moment. But then a little girl in a too big coat sat down next to me and offered to share her mother because she thought I needed a hug. And I remembered something Clara used to say. What? That the darkest night only lasts until morning. That no matter how bad things get, dawn always comes. You just have to hold on long enough to see it. Lily felt tears pricking her eyes. I'm so tired of holding on. I know, but you're not holding on alone anymore. Victoria finished her call and walked over to them. I have news, good and bad. Bad first, Lily said. The CPS investigation is being fast-tracked. Patricia Lawson has a reputation for being thorough, but also for being easily influenced by credible sources. Miranda Wells is a former social worker with 30 years of experience. Her complaint carries weight. And the good news? Marcus found something. Victoria smiled grimly. Derek paid Miranda Wells $15,000 1 week before she filed the CPS report. We have the bank records. Lily's head snapped up. He paid her to file a false complaint? That's federal witness tampering. It's also fraud and conspiracy to deprive you of your parental rights. Victoria's smile sharpened. Derek just handed us the weapon to destroy him. We just need to deploy it at exactly the right moment. When? Tomorrow, Christmas Eve, in front of Judge Hartwell. Victoria gathered her papers. Get some rest, Miss Morgan. Tomorrow we go to war. But Lily couldn't rest. She lay awake in Ethan's guest room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ava alone in Derek's mansion, thinking about everything she'd lost and everything she still stood to lose, and wondering if dawn would ever really come. December 24th, Christmas Eve. The Suffolk County Family Court building loomed gray against the winter sky. Snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the city in white, but the beauty felt mocking somehow, like the world was dressed up for a celebration while Lily walked toward her execution. She had barely slept. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands trembling despite the warm coat Ethan had insisted she borrow. She looked nothing like the professional nurse she had been 3 days ago. She looked exactly like what Derek wanted her to look like, a broken woman barely holding herself together. But looks could be deceiving. Victoria Caldwell walked beside her, carrying a briefcase that contained enough evidence to destroy Derek Morgan's carefully constructed facade. Marcus Webb followed behind, a tablet loaded with financial records and photographs. Dr. Helen Barnes had submitted her expert testimony via sworn affidavit, documenting Ava's clear preference for her mother and the manipulation tactics commonly employed by narcissistic parents in custody disputes. Ethan walked on Lily's other side, his presence solid and reassuring. Remember, Victoria said as they climbed the courthouse steps, we're presenting only partial evidence this morning. The hidden assets, the bribed judge, we're saving the best for last. Why not present everything at once? Strategy. Derek thinks he knows what we have. He's prepared his defense against it. What he doesn't know is that we have Miranda Wells on tape admitting the CPS complaint was paid for. He doesn't know we've been watching Jessica for weeks. He has no idea what's coming. They entered the courthouse and made their way to courtroom 3. Judge Eleanor Hartwell presided, a woman in her late 50s with gray-streaked hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She had a reputation for fairness and zero tolerance for courtroom theatrics. Derek was already seated at the defendant's table. Jessica beside him, dressed demurely in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Lily's monthly rent. Gregory Ashford shuffled papers with practiced confidence. Ava sat in the front row with a court-appointed supervisor. When she saw Lily, her face lit up. "Mommy!" She started to run toward her, but the supervisor held her back. "Not yet, sweetheart. After the hearing." Ava's face fell. Lily felt her heart crack. Judge Hartwell called the proceedings to order. "We are here to address the emergency motion filed by Lily Morgan requesting modification of custody arrangements. Caldwell, you may present your case." Victoria rose, buttoning her jacket. "Thank you, Your Honor. The facts of this case are straightforward. Derek Morgan committed perjury during the original divorce proceedings by concealing $3 million in offshore accounts. Judge Harold Patterson accepted bribes totaling $150,000 to rule in Mr. Morgan's favor. And most recently, Mr. Morgan paid Miranda Wells, mother of his current fiancée, $15,000 to file a false CPS report against Ms. Morgan." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Derek's face went pale. Gregory Ashford shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor. These allegations are unfounded and defamatory." "I have documentation for all of them," Victoria replied calmly. She opened her briefcase and withdrew a thick folder. Bank records, wire transfers, communications between Mr. Morgan and Judge Patterson, and a signed statement from Miranda Wells's bank confirming the payment. Judge Hartwell accepted the folder and began reviewing its contents. Her expression grew increasingly grim. "Mr. Ashford, were you aware of any of this?" "Your Honor, my client maintains his innocence. These documents could be fabricated. They could be verified easily enough." Judge Hartwell set down the folder. "Mr. Morgan, the allegations presented here are serious. Perjury, judicial corruption, conspiracy to file false reports. If even half of this is true, you're facing criminal charges that extend far beyond family court." Derek stood, his composure cracking. "Your Honor, I can explain." "I doubt you can, but I'm giving you the opportunity. My ex-wife is clearly unstable. She collapsed at work. She left our daughter with a stranger. She's been associating with Ethan Calloway, a man she barely knows, accepting his money, living in his apartment. What kind of mother does that?" "A mother who had no other options," Victoria cut in. "A mother who was systematically stripped of her resources by a corrupt court system bought and paid for by her ex-husband." "Enough," Judge Hartwell's voice cut through the argument. "I've reviewed the evidence. I've heard the allegations. Based on what's before me, I am inclined to rule in favor of Ms. Morgan." Hope exploded in Lily's chest. She gripped Ethan's hand. "However," the judge continued, "given the complexity of these matters and the pending CPS investigation, I want to ensure due process is followed. We will take a brief recess while I consult with the relevant authorities regarding the criminal allegations." "How long a recess, Your Honor?" Victoria asked. 2 hours. Court will reconvene at noon." The gavel fell. Court was in recess. For a moment, everything seemed perfect. Victoria was already on the phone with the district attorney's office. Marcus was coordinating with his contacts at the FBI. Dr. Barnes was preparing to testify in person if needed. Lily turned to Ethan, tears in her eyes. "We did it. We actually did it." "Almost. Don't celebrate until the gavel falls." But Lily couldn't help the smile spreading across her face. For the first time in 2 years, justice was within reach. Then the courtroom doors burst open. Jessica Wells strode in, phone in hand, her demure facade replaced by barely contained fury. Your Honor, I have new evidence." Judge Hartwell frowned. "Court is in recess, Ms. Wells." "This can't wait. I have proof that Lily Morgan is having an inappropriate relationship with Ethan Calloway. Proof that he's paying for her case because she's giving him something in return. She held up her phone. On the screen were photographs. Lily entering Ethan's penthouse building. Ethan carrying Ava at the hospital. The two of them holding hands in the corridor. This man inserted himself into my fiancé's custody case, Jessica continued, her voice rising. He's bankrolling Lily's attorney. He's been spending nights with her. He's been around at our daughter without any background check or court approval. Gregory Ashford saw his opportunity. Your Honor, we request an immediate investigation into Mr. Calloway's involvement and motives. Judge Hartwell held up a hand. Ms. Wells, these photographs show two people who appear to be friends. That is not evidence of impropriety. He's a stranger who appeared out of nowhere. How do we know he's not a predator? How do we know he's not using Lily to get access to children? That's enough. Ethan's voice was cold and sharp. He stood, and his presence seemed to fill the courtroom. My name is Ethan Calloway. I am the CEO of Calloway Industries. I am also the anonymous benefactor who funded the pediatric wing of Boston Children's Hospital in memory of my late wife. I have devoted a significant portion of my fortune to protecting children, not harming them. Words, Jessica sneered. Anyone can claim to be generous. Check the hospital records. Check the foundation documents. Everything I've said can be verified within the hour. Judge Hartwell studied him. Mr. Calloway, while your reputation may be impeccable, the concerns raised do warrant examination. Until your involvement can be properly vetted, I cannot in good conscience proceed with a custody ruling. Your Honor, please, Lily said, her voice breaking. He's the reason I'm still standing. He's helped us because his daughter showed him kindness when he needed it most. That's the only reason. I understand, Ms. Morgan, and I believe you, but I must follow procedure. Judge Hartwell took a breath. Court will remain in recess while the relevant investigations are conducted. Given the pending CPS case and the new questions raised about Mr. Calloway, I am ordering Ava Morgan to remain in her father's custody until these matters are resolved. No! The scream tore from Lily's throat before she could stop it. You can't do this! She's my daughter! Miss Morgan, I am trying to protect your daughter while ensuring these proceedings are conducted fairly. I understand your distress, but I need time to sort through these allegations. Derek was smiling, that cruel, triumphant smile. Jessica was smiling too. And as the bailiff approached to escort Ava away, the little girl began to scream. Mommy, no, don't let them take me! Mommy! Lily lunged forward, but hands held her back. Court officers, procedure, rules. AVA! Mommy, please! Derek walked over and took Ava's hand. She tried to pull away, but his grip was firm. Say goodbye to your mother, sweetheart. You'll see her again, eventually. He leaned close to Lily as he passed. I told you, I never lose. They walked out, Ava crying, Derek smiling, Jessica triumphant, and Lily collapsed to her knees on the cold courtroom floor, shattered into a million pieces. December 24th, Christmas Eve, 7:43 p.m. The parking lot of Suffolk County Family Court was empty, except for Ethan's black Mercedes. Every other car had left hours ago. Every other family was home, wrapping presents, drinking eggnog, singing carols around Christmas trees. Lily Morgan sat in the passenger seat, staring at nothing. She hadn't moved in 47 minutes, hadn't spoken, hadn't blinked. Her eyes were fixed on some distant point beyond the windshield, beyond the falling snow, beyond anything Ethan could reach. He had seen this look before, on soldiers returning from war, on parents who had lost children, on people whose souls had been shattered so completely that the pieces couldn't find their way back together. Lily, he said softly. No response. Lily, please, talk to me. Nothing. He reached for her hand. It was ice cold, despite the heater running full blast. She didn't pull away, but she didn't respond either. Her fingers lay limp in his palm like something already dead. I failed her. The words came out flat, emotionless, worse than crying. Crying would have meant she still had hope. This was something else. This was surrender. You didn't fail anyone. They took my daughter on Christmas Eve. She's spending tonight in that house with that man and that woman, and tomorrow morning she'll wake up and I won't be there. I won't be there to see her face when she opens her presents. I won't be there to make her pancakes shaped like Christmas trees. I won't be there. Her voice cracked on the last word, and finally, tears began to fall. I promised her. After the divorce, when everything fell apart, I held her in my arms, and I promised her that no matter what happened, I would always be there. I would always protect her. I would never let anyone take her away from me. She turned to look at Ethan, and the devastation in her eyes made his chest physically hurt. I lied to my daughter. I made a promise I couldn't keep. And now she's in that house, probably crying herself to sleep, thinking her mother abandoned her, thinking I didn't fight hard enough, thinking I didn't love her enough. Ava knows you love her. She knows you fought for her. Does she? Does a 6-year-old understand legal proceedings and corrupt judges and CPS investigations? Or does she just know that her mommy said she would always be there and now she's not? Ethan had no answer for that. Lily laughed, but it was a horrible sound, the kind of laugh that comes out when crying isn't enough. You know what the worst part is? Derek is probably loving this. Right now, he's probably sitting in his living room with his pregnant fiancée, drinking champagne, celebrating his victory. He doesn't care about Ava. He never has. She's just a trophy to him, proof that he won. He hasn't won yet. Haven't you been paying attention? He always wins. That's what Derek does. He wins. He won the divorce. He won the custody battle. He won every single ruling in every single courtroom. And now he's won again. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. Maybe he was right. Maybe I should have just given up from the beginning. Maybe Ava would have been better off if I just walked away and let him have her. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Look at what my fighting has accomplished. 2 years of legal battles, 2 years of working myself to death, 2 years of watching Derek outmaneuver me at every turn. And where am I now? Sitting in a parking lot on Christmas Eve while my daughter cries for me in another house. She pulled her hand away from his. Maybe I'm not meant to win. Maybe some people are just meant to lose. Maybe that's my role in this story. The woman who tried and failed. The mother who loved her daughter but couldn't protect her. Stop it. Ethan's voice was sharp, sharper than he intended. But he couldn't listen to this anymore. Stop what? Telling the truth? Stop giving up. Stop deciding the story is over when we're still in the middle of it. There is no middle. This is the end. Can't you see that? No, I can't, because I've been where you are. I've sat in exactly this darkness, and I know something you don't. Lily looked at him, exhaustion and despair written across every line of her face. What could you possibly know about this? I know what it feels like to lose everything that matters. I know what it feels like to sit in the wreckage of your life and believe that the sun will never rise again. Ethan took a breath. When Clara died, I wanted to die too. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't ask for help. I just stopped. Stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Stopped caring about the company or the money or any of it. What changed? One morning I woke up and realized that Clara would be ashamed of me. She spent her whole life fighting cancer, fighting fear, fighting to squeeze every drop of joy out of whatever time she had left. And there I was, healthy and wealthy and surrounded by opportunities, choosing to throw it all away because I couldn't handle the pain. He turned to face Lily fully. She used to say something to me. Every night before we went to sleep, she would take my hand and say, "The universe tests us hardest right before it rewards us. The darkest night only lasts until morning. You just have to hold on long enough to see the dawn." That's a nice sentiment, but this isn't a movie. The good guys don't always win. No, they don't. But the good guys who give up definitely lose. And I refuse to let you give up. Not tonight, not ever. Lily shook her head. You're a good man, Ethan, but you can't fix this. Derek has too much power. He has too many connections. Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Then he looked again. His eyes widened. He has what? Lily asked tiredly. Hold that thought. He answered the call. Marcus, what is it? Lily watched him as he listened, watched his expression shift from surprise to disbelief to something else entirely. Something that looked almost like joy? You're sure? 100% confirmed? A pause. And the FBI is already involved? Another pause. How quickly can we move? He hung up the phone and turned to Lily. And for the first time in hours, he smiled. What is it? Lily asked, afraid to hope. What happened? Remember when I said that the darkest night only lasts until morning? Yes. Dawn just arrived early. Ethan, what are you talking about? Jessica Wells has been having an affair. The words hung in the air between them. Lily blinked. What? For 4 months, with a man named Bradley Finch, Derek's business partner, his best friend since college, the godfather of his future child. Lily's mouth fell open. That's not possible. Marcus has photographs, hotel receipts, text messages, credit card statements showing matching charges at the same restaurants on the same nights. She's been seeing him twice a week since August, sometimes 3 times. Derek doesn't know? Derek has no idea. He's been so obsessed with destroying you that he hasn't noticed his perfect new life is built on the same lies his old life was. Something shifted in Lily's expression. A spark returning to eyes that had gone dead. Jessica is cheating on Derek. With Bradley. Yes. The same Derek who cheated on me. The Derek who said I drove him to infidelity because I wasn't enough for him. The Derek who told everyone I was cold and distant and unlovable. The very same. Lily felt a sound building in her chest. It started as a tremor, then grew into something she couldn't contain. She laughed, not the horrible broken laugh from before. A real laugh, disbelieving, yes. Slightly hysterical, absolutely, but real. Derek spent 2 years and $200,000 trying to destroy me. He bribed judges. He paid for false reports. He manipulated the entire legal system. And his fiancée has been sleeping with his best friend behind his back for 4 months. Karma, Ethan said, is a very patient accountant. But when the bill comes due, she collects with interest. What else do you have? Miranda Wells on tape. Marcus got a recording of her bragging to a friend about the CPS complaint. She explicitly states that Derek paid her $15,000 to file it. She even jokes about how easy the money was. That's witness tampering. That's federal witness tampering. The FBI has already opened an investigation. They're preparing arrest warrants as we speak. And the affair evidence? Time-stamped photographs, hotel security footage, a paper trail a mile long. Ethan reached for Lily's hand again. This time, she gripped back. Derek Morgan is about to experience something he's never experienced in his entire life. What's that? Losing completely, publicly, humiliatingly. And there's nothing his money or his connections or his expensive lawyers can do to stop it. Lily felt something unfurling in her chest, something she had forgotten she was capable of feeling. Hope. What do we do? Tonight we prepare. We organize every piece of evidence. We coordinate with Victoria and the FBI. We make sure that when we walk into that courtroom tomorrow morning, we have everything we need to destroy Derek Morgan so completely that he will never recover. Tomorrow, but court isn't scheduled to reconvene until after Christmas. Victoria just filed an emergency motion. Given the new evidence of federal crimes, Judge Hartwell has agreed to hear our case first thing tomorrow morning. Christmas Day? Christmas Day, at 7 a.m. Derek is going to wake up expecting to celebrate his victory. Instead, he's going to walk into a courtroom and watch his entire world collapse. Lily squeezed his hand tighter. For Ava. For Ava. For you. For every person Derek Morgan has ever hurt. Ethan started the car. And for Clara, who always believed that the dawn would come. They drove through the snowy streets of Boston toward the most important battle of their lives. And somewhere in the winter sky and dawn, the first faint light of morning was beginning to appear. December 25th, Christmas Day, 6:42 a.m. The Suffolk County Family Court building stood dark and empty except for a single courtroom on the 3rd floor. Judge Eleanor Hartwell had arrived at 5:30, unusual for any day, Extraordinary for Christmas morning. But she had read Victoria Caldwell's emergency filing. She had reviewed the evidence summaries, and she had understood immediately that this could not wait. Lily stood outside the courtroom doors, clutching Ethan's hands so tightly her knuckles were white. She had not slept, had barely eaten, had spent the entire night reviewing documents, rehearsing testimony, preparing for every possible scenario. None of it made her feel ready. Victoria Caldwell approached them, immaculate as always in a charcoal suit, her silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. "How do you feel?" she asked Lily. "Terrified." "Good. Terror keeps you sharp. Overconfidence gets you killed." Victoria checked her watch. "We have 18 minutes. Let me walk you through the sequence one more time." "I know the sequence." "Then let me walk you through it anyway. We start with the Miranda Wells recording. We establish the conspiracies to file false reports. Then we present the financial evidence against Judge Patterson. Then, and only then, we reveal Jessica's affair." "Why save that for last?" "Because it's the kill shot. Everything else damages Derek's case. The affair evidence destroys Derek himself. I want him to think he might still escape. I want him to feel hope, and then I want to watch that hope die in his eyes." Lily stared at her. "That's brutal." "Ms. Morgan, your ex-husband spent 2 years systematically destroying your life. He took your home, your savings, your reputation. He bribed judges and paid for false reports and tried to steal your daughter. Brutal is the least of what he deserves." The courtroom doors opened. A bailiff gestured them inside. This was it. The courtroom was smaller than the one from yesterday. More intimate. The kind of space where you could see every expression on every face, where no emotion could hide. Derek was already seated at the defendant's table, and Lily felt a surge of dark satisfaction at how he looked. Disheveled, unshaven, his expensive suit wrinkled as if he had slept in it. He clearly hadn't expected to be summoned on Christmas morning. He clearly hadn't expected anything to threaten his victory. Jessica sat behind him, and she looked even worse. Dark circles under her eyes, makeup hastily applied, hands fidgeting constantly with her phone. Ava was in the front row with the court-appointed supervisor, and when she saw Lily, her whole body seemed to light up. "Mommy!" The supervisor held her back, but Lily met her daughter's eyes across the courtroom and mouthed the words, "I'm here. I love you. It's going to be okay." Ava nodded, tears in her eyes, but trust on her face. That trust, that absolute faith, it was everything Lily was fighting for. Judge Hartwell entered, and everyone rose. "Be seated. This emergency session has been convened to address new evidence in the custody dispute between Lily Morgan and Derek Morgan." She looked at Victoria. "Ms. Caldwell, you filed the motion. The floor is yours." Victoria stood, buttoning her jacket with practiced precision. "Thank you, Your Honor. Over the past 24 hours, my investigative team has uncovered evidence of systematic fraud, corruption, and criminal conspiracy designed to deprive Lily Morgan of her constitutional rights as a parent." Derek's lawyer, Gregory Ashford, started to rise. "Your Honor, these accusations—" "Mr. Ashford, you will have your opportunity to respond. Sit down." Ashford sat. "Proceed, Ms. Caldwell." Victoria walked to the evidence table and lifted a small recording device. Exhibit A, a recording obtained yesterday evening of Miranda Wells, mother of Jessica Wells, describing her role in filing a false CPS complaint against Lily Morgan. She pressed play. Miranda's voice filled the courtroom, casual and smug. "Derek called me last Tuesday, said he needed something to tip the scales before the hearing. I told him CPS complaints are taken seriously, especially when they come from someone with my background. 30 years as a social worker. They trust me. So I filed the report, said I was concerned about the child being left with some strange man. Derek wired me 15 grand that same night, easiest money I've ever made. And the best part? Lily has no idea I'm involved. She thinks it's just bad luck." Victoria stopped the recording. Derek's face had gone gray. "Your Honor, this recording clearly establishes a criminal conspiracy to file false reports. Under federal law, this constitutes witness tampering and obstruction of justice. Both are felonies." Judge Hartwell's expression was carved from stone. Continue. Exhibit B financial records proving that Judge Harold Patterson, who presided over the original Morgan divorce proceedings, received payments totaling $217,000 from shell companies controlled by Derek Morgan. Victoria spread documents across the evidence table. Bank statements, wire transfer records, corporate registration documents showing the shell company's true ownership. These payments began 2 months before the Morgan divorce proceedings and continued until 2 weeks after the final ruling. They are structured to avoid detection, routed through multiple accounts and entities. But the trail is clear and documented. Gregory Ashford was sweating visibly now. Your Honor, these documents require authentication. They've been authenticated by a forensic accountant and verified by FBI financial investigators. Victoria cut in. I have sworn affidavits from both, as well as preliminary confirmation from the Bureau that Judge Patterson is now the subject of a federal corruption investigation. The courtroom buzzed with whispered reactions. Derek leaned over to whisper furiously to his lawyer. Ashford shook his head, looking increasingly desperate. And now, Victoria said, her voice dropping to something almost gentle, we come to the final piece of evidence. She paused, letting the silence build. Your Honor, what I am about to present may seem tangential to the custody matter at hand, but I believe it speaks directly to the character and judgment of Derek Morgan, and by extension, to the environment in which he proposes to raise his daughter. Proceed. Victoria turned to face Derek directly. Mr. Morgan, when you divorced Lily Morgan, you cited irreconcilable differences. But the truth was that your wife discovered you were having an affair with Jessica Wells that had been ongoing for 5 years. Is that correct? Derek's jaw tightened. That's not relevant to... Is it correct, Mr. Morgan? Yes. And in the 2 years since your divorce, you have consistently portrayed yourself as a changed man, a devoted partner, a stable presence for your daughter. You've argued that your relationship with Ms. Wells is the foundation of the new, better family you want to provide for Ava. Is that also correct? Yes, Victoria smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then I'm sure you'll be interested in Exhibit C. She pulled out a folder and removed a series of photographs. These images were taken by a licensed private investigator over the past 4 months. They show Jessica Wells entering and exiting the Fairmont Hotel in Boston on 7 different occasions. In each photograph, she is accompanied by the same man. Victoria laid the photographs on the evidence table one by one. His name is Bradley Finch, your business partner, your best friend since Stanford, the godfather of your unborn child. Derek stared at the photographs. His face went from gray to white to something that looked almost green. Jessica made a strangled sound behind him. We also have hotel receipts, credit card records, and text messages. Would you like me to read some of the messages aloud, Mr. Morgan? They're quite descriptive. That's a lie. Jessica was on her feet, her face contorted with fury and fear. Those photographs are fake. Bradley and I are just friends. Derek, you have to believe me. Derek turned to look at her slowly. The expression on his face was something Lily had never seen before. The mask of charm and confidence completely shattered, revealing the emptiness beneath. 4 months? Derek, please, let me explain. 4 months? His roar echoed through the courtroom. The bailiff stepped forward, hand on his weapon. Mr. Morgan, you will control yourself or you will be removed, Judge Hartwell commanded. Derek was breathing heavily, his hands gripping the table so hard his knuckles were white. He looked at Jessica, at the photographs, at Victoria Caldwell's calm, satisfied face. You've been sleeping with Bradley, my Bradley, for 4 months. Derek, while telling me you loved me, while planning our wedding, while carrying... He stopped. His eyes went to Jessica's stomach, the baby, the child he had believed was his. Is it even mine? Jessica's silence was answer enough. The courtroom erupted. Gregory Ashford was shouting objections. Jessica was crying and trying to explain. Derek looked like a man watching his entire life collapse into rubble. Order! Judge Hartwell's gavel cracked like thunder. I will have order in this courtroom. Silence fell, gradually, painfully. Victoria straightened her jacket, completely unruffled by the chaos. Your Honor, I believe the evidence speaks for itself. Derek Morgan is not a changed man. He is not a stable partner. He is a manipulator who has been manipulated in return. He built his case against Lily Morgan on fraud, bribery, and conspiracy, and his perfect new family was a lie from the very beginning. She turned to face the judge. Lily Morgan has fought for 2 years against impossible odds. She has been cheated, robbed, and betrayed by every person and institution that should have protected her. And through all of it, she has never stopped fighting for her daughter. She has never stopped being the kind, compassionate, dedicated mother that Ava deserves. Victoria's voice softened. Your Honor, it's Christmas morning. A little girl is sitting in this courtroom waiting to find out if she gets to spend today with her mother. I'm asking you to give them both the only gift that matters. Judge Hartwell sat in silence for a long moment. She looked at the evidence spread across the table. At Derek, shattered and furious. At Jessica, crying and defeated. At Gregory Ashford, who seemed to have aged 10 years in the past hour. Then she looked at Lily. Then at Ava. I've heard enough. The courtroom held its breath. Judge Hartwell removed her glasses and set them carefully on the bench. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. In my 23 years on the bench, I have seen many custody disputes. I have seen parents fight bitterly over children they claim to love. I have seen families destroyed by greed, by pride, by the simple inability to put a child's needs above their own. She paused. But I have never in all my years seen anything quite like this. Derek shifted in his seat. Gregory Ashford was practically vibrating with anxiety. Derek Morgan, the evidence presented today paints a picture of systematic corruption and manipulation that goes far beyond any custody dispute. You concealed assets during your divorce. You bribed a sitting judge. You paid your fiance's mother to file false reports against your ex-wife. You used the legal system as a weapon to punish a woman whose only crime was discovering your infidelity. Your Honor, I can explain. You cannot explain. There is no explanation. There is only the evidence, and the evidence is damning. Judge Hartwell turned to look at Jessica, who had mascara streaming down her cheeks. Miss Wells, while your affair with Mr. Finch is not strictly relevant to this custody matter, it speaks volumes about the environment Mr. Morgan proposes to create for his daughter. A home built on lies and betrayal is no home at all. Jessica said nothing. She couldn't even look up. Now, the judge straightened. To the matter at hand. Lily gripped Ethan's hand beneath the table. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Based on the evidence presented, I am making the following rulings. The courtroom went completely silent. First, the emergency CPS complaint filed by Miranda Wells is hereby dismissed as fraudulent. All restrictions on Lily Morgan's custody are lifted immediately. Lily's breath caught. Second, full and sole custody of Ava Morgan is granted to Lily Morgan, effective immediately. Tears began streaming down Lily's face. Third, Derek Morgan's visitation rights are suspended indefinitely pending criminal investigation. Any future visitation will be supervised and subject to court approval. Derek made a strangled sound of protest, but Ashford grabbed his arm and held him down. Fourth, all evidence of criminal conspiracy, bribery, and obstruction of justice will be forwarded to the FBI and the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office for prosecution. Victoria nodded with grim satisfaction. Fifth, this court will be recommending disbarment proceedings against Gregory Ashford for his role in facilitating these fraudulent proceedings. Ashford went white, his legal career destroyed in a single sentence. Sixth, Miranda Wells will be referred to federal authorities for prosecution under witness tampering statutes. The judge paused, letting the weight of each ruling sink in. And finally, she looked directly at Lily. Miss Morgan, I am deeply, personally sorry for what our system put you through. The failures at every level, the corruption, the bias, the willful blindness, none of it should have happened. I cannot undo the pain you've experienced. I cannot give you back the years you lost fighting a battle that should never have been necessary, but I can give you back what never should have been taken. She turned to the court-appointed supervisor. Release Ava Morgan to her mother immediately. The supervisor nodded and released Ava's hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Ava sat frozen, as if she couldn't quite believe it was real. Then she moved. Mommy! She burst from her seat and ran across the courtroom, past the evidence tables, past the lawyers, past everyone and everything, straight into her mother's arms. "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy!" Lily caught her and held on like she would never let go. They were both crying, great, heaving, uncontrollable sobs that echoed through the silent courtroom. "I knew you would come," Ava sobbed into her mother's shoulder. "I knew it, Mommy. I knew you would save me. I told Daddy you would come, and he said you wouldn't, but I knew." "I will always come for you," Lily whispered, her voice breaking on every word. "Always, baby. Always. No matter what. No matter who tries to stop me. I will always, always come for you." Ethan stood back, watching the reunion with tears streaming down his own face. He thought of Clara, of all the things she had wanted but never got to have. A child to hold, a family to love, a future to build. And then he thought of her words, echoing across 5 years of grief and loneliness. The darkest night only lasts until morning. You just have to hold on long enough to see the dawn. The dawn had come. Across the courtroom, Derek sat in stunned silence. His empire had collapsed in less than an hour. His money couldn't save him. His connections couldn't protect him. His expensive lawyers couldn't argue their way out of documented evidence in federal investigations. He had lost. Completely. Publicly. Humiliatingly. And the worst part, the part that would haunt him for the rest of his life, was that he had done it to himself. Every lie he told had come back to destroy him. Every person he betrayed had contributed to his downfall. Every shortcut he took had led him straight to this moment. He looked at Jessica, still crying, her perfect facade shattered beyond repair. He looked at Gregory Ashford, already mentally composing his resignation letter. He looked at the evidence table, covered in documents that proved every terrible thing he had ever done. And then he looked at Lily. She was still holding Ava, still crying, still whispering words of love and comfort. She looked nothing like the broken woman he had expected to see. She looked victorious, radiant, alive in a way he had never seen her during their marriage. She had won, not because she had more money, not because she had better connections, not because she played the game better than he did. She had won because she never stopped fighting, because she believed in something more important than winning, because she loved her daughter more than she feared failure. Derek had always thought love was weakness. That sentiment was for suckers, that the only thing that mattered was power. He was wrong, and now he would spend the rest of his life paying for that mistake. Judge Hartwell stood. "This court is adjourned. Merry Christmas, Miss Morgan. Take your daughter home." The gavel fell one final time. December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1 year later. The bench outside Boston Children's Hospital looked exactly the same as it had 12 months ago. Same worn wooden slats. Same view of the hospital entrance. Same soft glow from the pediatric wing windows. But everything else had changed. Ethan Calloway sat on that bench now with Lily Morgan Calloway beside him. Yes, they had gotten married in October, a small ceremony with just close friends and family, her head resting on his shoulder. Between them sat Ava, now 7 years old, bundled in a new pink coat that actually fit, sipping hot cocoa from a thermos and humming Christmas carols under her breath. They had come back to where it all began, a tradition now, a way to remember how far they had traveled from that frozen, desperate night to this moment of warmth and peace. "Tell me the story again," Ava requested. "You know the story, sweetheart. You were there." "I know, but I like hearing it. It's like a fairy tale, except it's real." Lily smiled and kissed the top of her daughter's head. "You're right, it is like a fairy tale." "Okay," Ethan said, settling into storytelling mode. "Once upon a time, there was a very sad man who sat on this very bench on Christmas Eve. He had lots of money and a big company and a fancy apartment, but he didn't have anyone to share it with. He was so sad that he was crying, and he thought nobody would ever see. But somebody did see," Ava prompted. "Somebody did. A very brave, very wise, very kind little girl in a pink coat that was much too big for her. She walked right up to the sad man and asked him why he was crying. And he said he wasn't crying. And she said yes, he was, that his heart was leaking through his eyes." Ava giggled. "That's my favorite part." "And then," Ethan continued, The little girl did something amazing. She offered to share the most precious thing in her whole world with a complete stranger. She said, "You can borrow my mom," because sharing happy with sad people is the right thing to do, Aviva recited solemnly. Exactly. And that one small act of kindness changed everything. It saved the sad man. It helped the little girl's mommy fight for what was right. And it brought three broken people together to make one whole family. The end? The end? No way, that's just the beginning. Ava snuggled deeper between them, content and warm. I love our story. Me too, baby girl. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence watching the snow fall. Inside the hospital, doctors and nurses worked through the holiday, just as they did every year. The Callaway Foundation had tripled its funding to the pediatric wing. They had established scholarships for nursing students. They had created a support fund for single mothers fighting custody battles against wealthy exes. Lily had insisted on that last one. I got lucky, she had told Ethan. I found you, but there are thousands of women out there fighting the same battle I fought, and most of them don't have a billionaire to show up and fund their defense. We need to level the playing field. So they did. The Morgan Defense Fund, Lily had insisted on keeping her maiden name for the foundation, a small act of reclamation, had already helped 47 mothers retain custody of their children. 47 families that might have been destroyed by corruption and greed, given a fighting chance. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Mommy? Ava's voice broke into Lily's thoughts. Yes, baby? What happened to Daddy? Lily felt Ethan tense beside her. They had discussed this. They knew the questions would come eventually, but knowing didn't make it easier. Do you remember what we talked about? About how Daddy made some very bad choices and now he has to face the consequences? He's in jail. Yes, he's in a place where they send people who break the law. He'll be there for a while. Will he ever get out? Eventually, in a few years. Ava was quiet for a moment. Then, will I have to see him? Only if you want to. When you're older, if you decide you want to have a relationship with him, I will never stop you. But it will always be your choice, always. I don't think I want to see him. That's okay. You don't have to decide right now. You don't have to decide ever. Whatever you feel is valid. Ava nodded slowly, then she brightened. What about the mean lady, Jessica? Lily almost laughed. The mean lady was Ava's preferred term for Jessica Wells, and honestly, it was more charitable than some of the names Lily had for her there. She moved away, far away. I don't think we'll ever see her again. Good, she had mean eyes. She did, didn't she? Ava turned to look up at Ethan with sudden seriousness. Mr. Ethan? You know you can call me Ethan, sweetheart, or Dad, or whatever feels right to you. I know, but I have a very important question first. Okay, ask away. Are you going to stay forever? Ethan felt his heart crack open. This child, who had experienced so much betrayal, so much disappointment, needed to know that this time was different, that he wasn't going anywhere. Do you want me to stay forever? Yes. Then I'm staying forever, I promise. Cross my heart. Pinky promise? Ethan extended his pinky. Ava wrapped her much smaller one around it. Pinky promise, he said solemnly, forever and ever. Ava studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, that brilliant, world-changing smile that had started all of this. Okay, then I want to ask my mom a question. Go ahead. Ava turned to Lily. Mommy, can I call him Dad now? Not Mr. Ethan, just Dad. Lily's eyes filled with tears, happy tears, the kind of tears that came when your heart was too full to hold everything inside. Baby, you can call him whatever you want. Ava nodded decisively. Then she turned back to Ethan. Okay, Dad, I'm ready for the rest of the story now. Dad, the word hit Ethan like a wave. He had never expected to hear that word directed at him. He had given up on the idea of family years ago. And now here he was, sitting on a bench in the snow, with a wife and a daughter, hearing the most beautiful word in the English language from the most beautiful girl in the world. Dad, Ava prompted, are you crying again? No, Ethan managed. My heart is just leaking through my eyes. Ava giggled and threw her arms around his neck. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you will ever know. Lily joined the hug, wrapping her arms around both of them. The three of them held on to each other as the snow fell softly around them, as the Christmas lights twinkled in the hospital windows, as the world kept spinning through another holiday. "Merry Christmas, Mommy," Ava whispered. "Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, Dad. Merry Christmas, Ava. Merry Christmas, Lily." Ethan looked up at the sky. Somewhere beyond the clouds, beyond the snow, beyond everything he could see or touch or understand, he knew Clara was watching. "Merry Christmas, Clara," he said softly. "Thank you for everything, for the years we had together, for the lessons you taught me, for believing that I would find joy again, even when I couldn't believe it myself." He felt Lily squeeze his hand. "She would have loved this," Lily whispered. "She would have loved Ava. She would have loved you too. You're exactly the kind of person she would have wanted me to find." Lily rested her head on his shoulder. "Maybe she did. Maybe she sent Ava to you. Maybe she knew exactly what we all needed. Maybe she did. Maybe the universe really did test us hardest right before it rewarded us. Maybe the darkest nights really did lead to the brightest dawns. Maybe every moment of pain and loss and despair was just preparation for the joy that was coming. Or maybe it was all just random chance, coincidence. A little girl wandering away from the hospital at exactly the right moment to find exactly the right person. Either way, Ethan was grateful for the life he had lost and the life he had found, for the pain that had taught him empathy and the joy that had taught him hope, for Clara, who had shown him what love could be, and for Lily and Ava, who had shown him that love didn't end. It just changed. It grew. It found new forms and new expressions. "Ready to go home?" Lily asked. Home. A word that meant something completely different now than it had a year ago. "Almost," Ethan said. "There's one more thing I want to do first." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside were 3 folded pieces of paper. "I had an idea," he said, "something to make this tradition even more special." He handed a piece of paper to each of them. "These are wishes, things we hope for in the coming year. We write them down, fold them up, and keep them in this pouch. Next Christmas Eve, we come back here, open them together, and see which wishes came true." Ava's eyes went wide. "Like a time capsule." "Exactly like a time capsule. Can my wish be anything?" "Anything at all." Ava grabbed a pen from her mother's purse and began writing with fierce concentration. Lily did the same, her expression thoughtful. Ethan looked down at his own paper. 1 year ago, he would have written, "I wish I could feel alive again." That wish had come true beyond anything he could have imagined. Now he wrote, "I wish for 1,000 more Christmas Eves on this bench, with my family, together." He folded the paper carefully and tucked it into the pouch with the others. "All done?" Ava nodded vigorously. Lily smiled. "All done." They stood together, brushing snow off their coats. Ethan took Ava's hand on one side and Lily's on the other. "Ready now?" Lily asked. "Ready." They walked away from the bench, toward the parking lot, toward home, toward the rest of their lives. Halfway across the courtyard, Ava stopped suddenly. "Wait, I forgot something." She ran back to the bench and placed something on the seat. Then she hurried back to join them. "What was that?" Ethan asked. Ava smiled her mysterious smile. "A present for someone who might need it." Ethan looked back at the bench. On the seat was a small stuffed bear wearing a tiny Santa hat. Attached to its paw was a note. He couldn't read it from this distance, but he could guess what it said. Something like, "If you're sad, take this bear. He gives good hugs. And remember, someone out there cares about you." Classic Ava, spreading kindness wherever she went. "You're a remarkable person, you know that?" Ethan said. Ava shrugged. "I learned from the best." They continued walking, leaving the bench behind, leaving the past behind, walking toward the warm, bright future that waited for them, and somewhere watching from beyond the veil of snow and stars, an angel smiled. Because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness really did create the biggest miracles. Sometimes borrowed love became real love. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, the darkest Christmas Eve led to the brightest Christmas morning.